This is video blog 3 on neo-evolution. Neo-evolution is the practice of potential to change and or alter the path of living organisms to fit a specific need or desire. The changing of genetics or other attributes to give evolution a push to endow someone or something with an attribute that it doesn't necessarily have yet, or to choose what the attributes can be instead of leaving it to evolutionary chance, I think, for a lack of a better term. The technology that I'm going to use as an example, something we've had for a while and I can speak to somewhat personally, and that's fertility drugs and in vitro fertilization or test tube babies and that kind of thing. My wife and I have a daughter. It took us a long time to actually conceive. When we thought about having a second child, we started to go down the route of fertility drugs. We eventually ended up stopping that process, and we just have the only child. We kind of felt like we were tempting fate, and this is not a scientific thing at all. We just kind of felt like we had gotten wonderfully lucky the first time, and that we were sort of tempting something by doing this other thing. Now, that being said, there are tremendous benefits to it. Certainly, same-sex couples benefit from having these processes, and being able to have children that are at least genetically tied to one of the people in the couple. Certainly, people who just want to have children of their own and are having a difficult time conceiving, it's a marvelous thing. There are potential drawbacks, I think, in some aspects. I personally have some friends who are having difficulty conceiving. They started fertility drugs, and this happens quite often. Something that when we were going through it, our doctor called super fertilization. They ended up having twins. That's very common. Twins. They have triplets, and it's due to the kind of kick, the boost that is given through the fertility drugs, and it's not necessarily a drawback, but it's an unintended, possibly unintended consequence of that. There's also the idea of overpopulation. The question of, are there people who have evolved in a way that stops them from having children, and is there an evolutionary reason for that? Is that some sort of natural control on overpopulation? It also can have the unintended consequence of bringing down the rate of adoption for unwanted children. If people who are having difficulty conceiving suddenly have the ability to conceive through medicine, does that stop the rate of adoption for unwanted children? I think that as Feinberg says, that the whole idea of evolution is to push forward the genes, the material that's needed to have evolution happen. Then I think by I don't want to say artificially, but by helping along this situation that may be counterproductive to what evolution is saying, which, as Feinberg also says, it's not necessarily a bad thing. it seems counter to what the whole idea is. I don't think there's a whole lot of moral implication to fertility drugs other than the possibility of an overpopulation situation, which I don't know that I agree with or not. Certainly, new evolution in general has some moral situation going on. The possibility of somebody, a group of scientists being able to create a super race of, I don't know, soldiers or whatever. It sounds very science fiction-y, as you've noted. to be able to take control of a country or whatever, to have that kind of power. And then there's also the question of are we meddling with the natural order of things? I am not a religious person. I don't believe in playing God as the issue, but I do think that there is a question of are we having a detrimental effect on what the natural progression is through evolutionary terms and through nature itself. I certainly think we should continue to push forward with this particular line of study. The potential to eradicate terrible diseases, the potential to ease the difficulties of people born with defects, or to eradicate those effects. I think the pluses certainly outweigh the potential minuses to this particular line of discovery. But I think it has to be coupled with some pretty rigorous moral study as well. I think that with every step forward, there has to be vigorous debate about what it potentially means for everybody and everything. But in general, I think it's probably a good idea. Thanks.